Welcome to the Westerosi Free Folk podcast, brought to you by Wildling Sports. I'm Ryan. As always, I'm here with Mark.
What's up, guys?
We got a good episode today. We'll be reviewing Game of Thrones, Season 6, Episode 7, The Broken Man. You can check out old podcasts on Stitcher, SoundCloud, at www.wildlingsports.com. You check out old NFL podcasts, our mid-season review podcast, and old episode reviews. Again, it's wildlingsports.com. Let's jump right into the episode before we get into our stump questions. Overall, what do you think of the episode?
Overall, I thought the episode was very good. Another set episode, though, so it seemed a little slow, but I like the overall progression of the storyline. I would have liked to see a little bit more things happen and go down this episode because they're really cutting it close. I think 3 episodes remaining and a whole lot of stuff to do. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Like you said, it was another setup episode. On the first watch, I thought it wasn't quite as good as previous rewatches. I got a lot more enjoyment out of it on the second or third watch, especially because they left 7 or 8 minutes hanging there at the end of the episode. They cut it off after like 52 minutes.
Yeah, it was really short.
But I liked it though. I mean, it was good. We got Sandor coming back. It kind of focused on a few different plot lines, which I thought was good. And I liked Broken Man, just the theme of the episode as a whole. It seemed like every single storyline we touched on was somebody broken or people rebuilding after failures or after hardships. Literally every single person we met was rebuilding. Obviously Sandor was the big one. Theon was the big one as well. But even Yara, to a point with Theon, she was rebuilding after losing the Kingsmoot, trying to figure out what to do next. Arya after leaving the Faceless Men, Edmure, the Blackfish and Jaime, across the board pretty much.
Yeah, it just seemed like the arc of the episode simply was just one conversation after another conversation of someone trying to convince someone else to try to do something, rebuild themselves, and really, set out on a new path or a chance to redeem themselves. So I thought it was pretty good. I mean, they didn't really waste any time jumping into, widely expected to happen for quite some time with the Return of the Hound. I'm sure show watchers might be a little bit surprised by that for the most part, though. We've expected that to happen for quite some time because of certain scenes throughout Book 4. And they kind of did a similar storyline. I was pretty pleased with it.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out why they did it before the opening theme, and then I realized his name probably would have been Rory McCann would have been in the credits, and that kind of would have given it away there for most people. That makes sense. So, got our stump questions. Season to date here, you're winning 4-2.
Oh man.
I had some trouble coming up with some this week, but I figured out a few here. Why don't you start it off?
My first question deals with the first and opening scene. My question for you is, how many men does it take to carry one Sandor Clegane log?
I see the two. I'm between two numbers. I'm going to go with 4.
Oh, you're right. It's 4.
I was either 4 or 5, I was going to say.
The scene reminded me of like this old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I think it's called Commando, where they opens up with him chopping wood and carrying these huge ass logs on his shoulders. That's what the scene reminded me of.
Nice, yeah, that
movie from my childhood.
All right, here we go. The Septa that we meet with Marjorie and Olenna. Do you remember what her name is? It's said a couple times.
Jeez, dude. I should definitely know this, but I don't. Septa. Man, I don't know.
Septa Unella.
No. Okay, I should have known that.
Nice. Yeah, I think they said it a couple times. She was in last season too. She was the one Cersei was holding prisoner, or was holding Cersei prisoner.
She's the Shame Bell girl.
Yeah, exactly.
She's definitely gonna die.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The Mountain's definitely killing that girl in brutal fashion.
Yeah. Who'd you say, the Mountain?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a battle. She looks like she's almost as big as the Mountain, so.
Who knows? She might be pretty hot.
Yeah, she could be with all the stuff off. See her full face and her full figure there.
All right. My next stump question kind of deals with the same exact scene. The first scene between Ian McShane's character, Ray, and obviously Sandor Clegane. He asks the Hound specifically what has kept him alive all this time, and what was the Hound's one-word reply?
Hate.
Hate for who? That's my next question. Who do you think Sandor is referring to here with his one-line answer of hate fueling his survival?
It's got to be the Mountain.
Oh yeah.
Gotta be
the Mountain.
Clegane Bull.
Clegane. It's going down.
All right, so let's see here. We meet the two Freys again in this episode.
You know a name question, man?
What was one or two of their names? Either one. Just you gotta name either one of their two names.
Man, I haven't looked at this. I haven't looked at House Frey in so long. The one guy has a pretty serious limp.
Yeah, both, and let me also say that both of them are in the book too.
I know. That's the thing. That's why I'm mad at myself here. But they changed the actors on the TV show from the Red Wedding, haven't they?
Yeah, they did. Well, I know I almost gave the name away. I know they the one that killed Catelyn, he looks different anyway. They may have changed it. I don't know.
Hoster. No, that's Hoster Tully. I don't know, man. If you gave me 5 minutes, I'd probably be able to think about it, but we don't have that time.
So we got Lothar Frey,
yeah,
and we got Black Walder Frey.
Black Walder.
Nice, tied up here, season today. We're gonna be heading into the last few episodes.
Look, right? I'm gonna have to step up my question game.
Oh yeah, well you got to go with names. You know, you usually go with either wearing or numbers. I feel like.
Yeah, it's true.
So let's jump into the episode here. It opens up before the credits. We get obviously the big Sandor reveal. We get Ian McShane as Ray. It just opened up so pretty, so green. The music was so uplifting.
It's the happiest ever.
Yeah, there were a lot of food. They all had the whole assembly line going. Sandor looked like he's recovered some. He looked like he had a little bit of a limp, definitely, but it looked like he's recovered mostly. With that happy opening, you knew it wasn't going to end well there.
I mean, when was the last time we saw a happy scene in Game of Thrones? I feel like it's literally been since episode 1, season 1, when they have the whole feast for Robert in Winterfell. That was probably the last joyous scene we've seen like this, where it's all happy and like music playing and people smiling, doing their chores.
They have some happy scenes, but they're always touched with a little bit of sadness from one part. Or they had Sansa and Jon reunion earlier this season, but it was still touched with sadness because of everything that they've gone through, and the fact that, it was just so somber there. You didn't have the great music in the background, this great uplifting feeling. But let me just say right from the get-go, I loved Ian McShane as Ray. I would have liked, obviously, some of the things that were removed from the books, like the speech, like the Maribald speech there to be included. But yeah, his speech was okay. But I loved Ian McShane there.
Yeah. And another example of a great character, only being there for one episode, who has a lot of good lines and obviously very, very good at acting, and obviously meets their demise by the time the episode is over. But good character, good part. I don't know if he had any effect on changing the Hound as a person or Sandor as a person, but it was a good character to see interact with Sandor and kind of maybe change his outlook on life a little bit. But we know, based upon the end of the episode, the direction that his road is leading to.
Yeah, and let's just jump right through into to the Sandor scene. We have a lot of smaller scenes that jump around a little bit. So let's just kind of take it area by area here. So obviously, we get that little opening scene. Then we have Sandor and Rey. They have their little talk. When Sandor came back and we realized he never actually died, he was just very unhealthy the whole time and wounded, and he was nursed back to health. I was actually pretty happy with that. I didn't want to see another character so early just be brought back from the dead, whether it was by the Seven instead of the Red Gods or anything like that. I was just happy to see, he's mostly recovered.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we know that obviously he had a compound fracture where his femur was sticking out of his leg. So that's a fairly gruesome injury, for middle-aged standards there. But apparently Rey can muster up some healing services and nurse him back to health. And I thought it was cool how Rey knew that he was Sandor and kind of let him know pretty early that, hey, I know who you are, and everyone's afraid of you, and must have taken some monster to bring you down.
Yeah. Oh, I love that scene. Him saying, no, it was actually a woman. Yeah. That was good. Now, I don't think, you talked about hate driving him. And, I mean, it was very reminiscent. His talk was very reminiscent of Theon later about how, he'd be dead if the gods really punished him, basically. And there is no justice for what he's done. I don't think he's necessarily mad at Arya, the Hound, or Sandor, I should say. I don't think he's necessarily mad at Arya. I don't think he's necessarily mad at Brienne. I think we could get a Brienne-Sandor reunion here. I think it's mostly, now the Brotherhood without banners, mostly the Mountain, and probably some folks in King's Landing as well. I like the fact that, Ian McShane talks about how there's a reason that he's still here. Jon has this reason. There must be a reason for Jon since he came back from the dead. But even though the Hound is still alive and hasn't actually gone through that afterworld back into the world transition, he still has a reason for being here. The gods don't, the gods only know whatever gods there are. But I liked how they included that for him. And I have, other than him kind of seeking vengeance, I really don't know where his arc is going now. I've got no idea.
My question is, upcoming, if Clegane Bowl is indeed going down, and I'm pretty sure it is, how is he going to get involved with the Sparrows, and how is Sandor going to end up in King's Landing for this trial by combat? So obviously he's going to seek some revenge on the Brotherhood without banners and the men that obviously conducted the massacre. Is he going to end up saving some Sparrows in the process? Are those Sparrows going to kind of see him as someone that can escort them to King's Landing safely? And how is he recruited by the High Sparrow to basically be their champion? That's kind of the big question mark right now in my eyes in Sandor's storyline.
Yeah, I go back and forth about the whole Clegane Bowl. Obviously, we know the Cersei's putting up the Mountain. There's no really other named characters that could face her other than in King's Landing, really, other than Lancel, who obviously you wouldn't think would stand a chance. Maybe they could work a scenario where Loras faces the Mountain. But other than that, those are the real only two opportunities I could see happening. So the Hound kind of making his way down to King's Landing, I mean, obviously that would work. And I think that would be a fan favorite there.
In the scenes for next episode, they do show a fight between the Mountain and several of the Faith militant. I would be pretty disappointed if that is actually Cersei's trial by combat. But I could see it being her trial by combat, honestly.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it as well. I mean, we talked about how the High Septon earlier said that she was going to face trial by 7 septas. So I think that he's not even thinking at this point she's going to choose a trial by combat. Whether the Hound actually goes and faces the Mountain in this trial by combat, whether he does or he doesn't, I think eventually their paths have to cross again.
Yeah.
That's been this whole buildup with Sandor, how much he hates his brother. He wants to kill his brother. I just feel like they have to cross paths again. It just makes too much sense narratively.
Definitely.
So obviously later in this Riverlands arc here, we get Ray's speech, similar to the Septon Maribel speech. Definitely different at a lot of parts. And then we get the Brotherhood Without Banners riding up. We get Lem Lemoncloak coming, another small book character added. He looked an awful lot like Opie, I thought, from Sons of Anarchy. When he came up, if you guys know who I'm talking about, I swear to God, I thought he was Opie originally, and I mean he was. And I looked up the actor immediately after. And then we get Sandor chopping some wood later on, and the Brotherhood Without Banners supposedly came back, attacked him, and killed everybody, hung Ray, took his necklace off. His nice 7-pointed star necklace was gone, which is obviously a big deviation for the Brotherhood Without Banners from when we last saw them.
Yeah, definitely. Brotherhood of the Banners, we kind of saw them going off the rails.
Yeah.
We kind of saw it after Ned Stark obviously originally sent them on a mission to basically bring the Mountain to justice. And we see that once they capture Arya and the Hound, we see some of their backroom dealings and how they handle their new mission, basically. As originally it's kind of like a Robin Hood type storyline, but it seems like they're preying on anybody now, as kind of bandits, where they're systematically robbing and thieving across the countryside. And is this part of Beric Dondarrion being resurrected so many times where he's kind of just lost the original mission and has resorted to this thievery? How does this happen?
Yeah, and why did they attack? I think it's left a little bit open why they attacked the whole group. I feel like there's a number of reasons. They could still be going after. They talked about going after Lannister men the last time we saw them. Could they really just be going after them because they saw the Hound there, and these are now Lannister men who are men who are harboring a Lannister henchman basically in the Hound? Or could it be that they're really just looking for food and supplies? Or could it be that saying the night is dark and full of terrors, they're obviously a Roloris group now, apparently, at least this faction of them were. Could it have been a faith crime there? The thing that I think poses a little bit of a question, we hear from Walder Frey last week that, the Brotherhood Without Banners has the support of the people. But if they're doing this all over the countryside, you wouldn't think they would have the support of the people. So Is this kind of just a one-off? Is this a renegade group? Or was this even done by the Brotherhood Without Banners? I think it probably was, at least these few people we meet. But I think it's an open question because, at least Walder Frey seems to think the people love him.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a combination of several storylines from the book itself. There are a lot of bandits running across the countryside. One who's actually portraying himself as the Hound. So maybe there could be some deception there, but I think it's the Brotherhood Without Banners because of the Hound's obvious disdain for them. And that could be part of his hate too.
Yeah, and it sets up in the future, it sets up a conflict with him and the Brotherhood, something we've seen him have, him have issues with before. Obviously, he had the trial by combat with Barrett. I think that was season 3. So he had that trial by combat there.
Maybe the Hound's ticket into King's Landing is the Brotherhood Without Banners bringing him to justice and bringing him back to King's Landing. But that could be unlikely.
And he, who knows who else was around. We obviously have this little group that Ray and Ian McShane is with, but he very clearly had a 7-pointed star necklace on. But who knows if there were other smaller groups around them, if how much he's talked to Sandor about the faith. You would think he's been there ever since he was injured. So he's obviously been there for a few seasons now worth of time. So who really knows at this point how much Sandor has changed? It looks like he's just, he's going for vengeance, but that could just be immediate reaction, and we could see a little bit of a shift anyway. I think he's still going to go for vengeance, but we could see a little bit of a shift in his character.
Yeah, he's basically becoming like an axe murderer now.
Yeah.
He's been chopping wood and working out so heavily that he's now a beast, and he picks up his axe and he's off to exact revenge. Side story and mission here. Pretty cool though.
Yeah, and we obviously, like you said, we see him in a little bit of a fight next week. I think it'll be hard if they do a trial, it may be hard for him to face off with the Brotherhood and then get all the way to King's Landing for a trial in 3 episodes, especially if one of those episodes is heavily focused around Winterfell. But I want to put it past the show. We've seen characters move a little bit quicker in the most recent seasons. And obviously the other avenue for the Brotherhood Without Banners is a change in leadership. We don't have to necessarily get into who the change in leadership was, but it could be a little bit of a change in leadership with the Brotherhood Without Banners.
Could be that too.
Which I think if they're ever going to have a change in leadership, I think, this is the season to do it. We're back in the Riverlands. And we'll talk a little bit about this more with Riverrun too later on, but I'm just very excited to see all these plots starting to come together. You have so many people coming together in the Riverlands. There's so many people coming together in the North and Essos. It seems like it's finally starting to come towards an end point. I know the end point's a little bit further off still, but we still have plot lines coming together and stories coming together and characters who wouldn't have interacted now all of a sudden interacting with each other, or at least we're 1 or 2 episodes away from that.
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on to the next part of the storyline and then kind of examine some of these new interactions that are taking place in and around the Riverlands.
So before we jump back into the Riverlands, let's talk about King's Landing here. So the next scene after the beginning with Sandor, we get Margaery and the High Sparrow talking. She's obviously all in, Margaery here. She's going all in on this ruse. She's memorized the book here, the Faith of the Seven book. She's not sleeping with Tommen either. And the High Sparrow clearly knows that. And then you see the High Sparrow, he makes a threat about Lady Olenna. She's not safe in King's Landing, basically, is what she's saying. My thought is, we've seen the High Sparrows plotting before. Does he know Margaery? I'm sure he doesn't fully trust Margaery. Does he know that she's going to go tell Lady Olenna? Does he want her to leave the city, basically? That was my thought process.
I mean, it seems so simple that Margaery is playing not only the High Sparrow, but also her personal escort. What's her name?
Septa Olenna.
Septa Olenna. Onella. Okay, that she's just playing them, and they don't realize it. I thought these were supposed to be like people that could easily tell when people are lying and when they're not, and really get a good judge of character. I feel like the High Sparrow is aware of the game she's playing, but I think he has more cards in his pocket. And for him to remove the Queen of Thorns from King's Landing, or maneuver to have that happen, he's taking away another card that Marjorie has, and he's just going to have more and more control over her and Tommen.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any kind of speculation at all about the sleeping with Tommen, other than the fact that it's maybe just Marjorie's trying to go further in with the ruse here? I really think, in my opinion, I really think that's kind of all there is to it. I know we talked previously about Marjorie potentially wanting to, eventually remove the Lannisters there, remove Cersei, remove Kevin, remove Tommen. Eventually, she would obviously need an heir for her to do that successfully, though. But I don't think she's quite ready for that, because if she creates an heir, in a few years, basically she becomes Cersei. I think she wants that for a little while. I mean, she hasn't even really gotten to be queen yet.
Yeah, I don't think she has any type of feelings towards Tommen anymore. I don't think there were that many to begin with, but I think it's all gone now. Why would she even want anything to do with Tommen, rather than just for a power trip? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We get a nice quick scene there with Septu and Nella. We get Marjorie and the Queen of Thorns here. Marjorie goes in about how Loras, he should renounce all his titles. And from the High Sparrow's perspective, that's another house off the board, basically. We're told that Loras is the key to Highgarden and furthering the line. And if he can get Loras to renounce his titles, then I think that Highgarden's in a little bit of a predicament there. Unless, Mace still seems like he's young enough to I don't know if he's married yet. I can't remember. But if he's not, to take another wife and try to further the line a little bit. But it's another big piece off the board and out of King's Landing, and renouncing all their titles there.
Yeah, I agree. And later on, we're treated to a scene where Cersei approaches the Queen of Thorns, having heard that she is leaving the city, and I'd like to talk about this scene a little bit. I thought this was one of the best scenes in the episode.
Oh yeah, the
Queen of Thorns systematically breaks down Cersei piece by piece by piece, and I thought there's some pretty good foreshadowing too here. Queen of Thorns made a point to bring up the fact that Cersei is no longer has any control or say over what's happening in King's Landing, and that she's surrounded by thousands of enemies, and the Queen of Thorns is basically like, what are you going to do? Take them on by yourself?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she's going to do.
Yeah.
Kind of foreshadowing the Mad Queen things we've been talking about the past few weeks. So
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I wrote down here as well. That she brings up the fact that Cersei has no allies, no one left. I think the exact quote was, "Will you kill them all by yourself?" Which is, I think, like we said, exactly what we both expect her to do here. Maybe not this season, but as things are playing out in King's Landing, I could see that actually now being this season. I think it'll either be this season or kind of the middle of next season, if it, of course, it does happen. Right when Cersei comes in there, she pretty much admits to faults, which is something that Cersei doesn't normally do.
Yeah.
And Alina, I mean, she doesn't back down right away. I love the line, "I wonder if you're the worst person I've ever met." That was,
boom, shots fired.
Yeah, exactly. In my old age, I seem to forget a lot, but the vile ones truly stand out. That was such a good line. I wonder, though, it seems beneficial for Alina to try to team up with Cersei or team up with the Lannisters in some regard. And it seems like she's letting her emotions get in the way. Though it was an awesome scene, I think she's letting her emotions get in the way a little bit here, Alina.
You got to think that she trusts Marjorie. She's the one who taught Marjorie how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So when Marjorie gives her that little note with the Tyrell rose on it, I think that's her finally realizing that, Marjorie's always going to be a member of House Tyrell. She's playing the game. and she's maneuvering to potentially have some say in the outcome of whatever comes of what goes down in King's Landing. I like also how the Queen of Thorns told Cersei, "Do you remember the scowl you gave me when you sentenced the two heirs of Highgarden to under the High Sparrow?" She's like, "I do, and I'll always remember it." I thought that was also pretty cool line.
I took this as almost like a, that Rose scene is almost like a passing of the torch from Olenna to Marjorie there. She can go back to King's Landing, but exactly like you said, she's taught Marjorie how to play the game, and Marjorie, she seems to be playing it well. She realized if Marjorie goes through this and hasn't lost her Tyrell identity, there's probably not much that can make her lose it. And she's, she already tried to do one of Cersei's plots with her here against the High Sparrow, and it didn't work out. So what's the benefit in doing another one here? Anything else you got about King's Landing?
I'll bring up a point. Since we're talking about Cersei's ultimate goal here, taking on all King's Landing, if you recall back to season 2 or book 2, Daenerys and her visions and how she envisions King's Landing in the future. You see her walking through the throne room, and obviously it's burnt and it's a shell of itself, and it's kind of smoldering, and winter has come.
Yeah,
I definitely see that kind of coming to fruition, obviously, but is it going to happen in episode 10? Maybe. I'd probably say more along the lines of episode 1, season 7.
Yeah, I can see that. In that scene you're talking about, we also see Bran have that same vision too. Bran had that same vision of King's Landing, kind of almost the Red Keep almost destroyed and winter all around it. And so it wasn't just Dany. Bran had it too, which definitely makes me think that, it's coming again at some point.
Yeah.
So let's take a trip up north. We get, actually four or five scenes here in the north with Jon, with Sansa, with Davos, kind of taking the tour of the north. First we get Jon recruiting the wildlings to his tour. I'll say that I always love a scene with 1-1. Anytime 1-1's in a scene, especially now that he's hooked on phonics, he's learning some English or Westerosi, I think we're good.
No,
yeah. If he could, I like the wildling there, not Tormund, but the other wildling. His, we'll be the last of the free folk, reminiscent of the Last of the Giants song there that they always sing in the north. I thought that was good.
They flashed right to Umu when he said that too.
Yeah, and
touch.
I thought that was good. And Tormund's just always great too. I like Tormund anytime he's on the screen. And I really think, based on how we think some of the things are going to play out in Winterfell and the battle around Winterfell, this really could be the last of most of the wildlings that we know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know the outcome of the Battle of Winterfell or the Battle of the Bastards. It is based on a little bit later on in the episode, based on Jon's insistence of just wading into the storm.
Yeah,
they're kind of in quite the predicament there. He's kind of like Stannis 2.0, just trudging headlong into suicide mission. Like, what the hell?
That was exactly my thoughts. We get basically along the Great Northern Tour we had here. We had Lady Mormont and Bear Island. We have them going to the Glovers in Deepwood Mott there. And then we also have the scene with the northern campsite where we previously saw Stannis last season. I like these a little bit shorter scenes with all of them, kind of putting them at different places, kind of putting that all into one episode there, showing everything they found. But it is very reminiscent of Stannis of last season. He just saw it no matter what. He was going to take charge. He was going to do it. Even if it was a failing effort, he wasn't going to back down, basically. And Sansa even goes through kind of Stannis's accolades post-mortem here, and some of them don't look so good. I don't like the fact that she questioned Davos. Davos is the man. He should be held without question. But they're 2,000, and so Army, I think, isn't going to stand a great shot against the Boltons alone.
All right, let's talk about Bear Island here.
Yes.
Probably the best scene, I think, in the episode. You have Lady Lyanna here, the lady of Bear Island, who's 10 years old and really puts on and steals the show here. So I'll let you lead it off.
Yeah, I thought that scene was awesome with Lady Mormont. You know, they talked a little bit after the episode that they wanted to make her, even though she was a 10-year-old girl, they wanted to make her almost just as hard and just as conflicted with Jon and team as some of the other older lords were, like House Glover. Eventually, obviously, she agrees to give her 62 fighting men worth 600 fighting men to Jon. I really liked her questioning of Sansa. You know, her calling her a Bolton or a Lannister. She's heard conflicting reports. But I also like Sansa's response to that, too. You know, she didn't back down. Sansa hasn't really backed down much this season and seems to be playing the game herself. But I thought the actress did a great job there with Lyanna. You know, clearly the Mormonts have great respect for the Starks. Even as of the last generation, she's clearly named after Lyanna Stark. So, you know, there is some love there between the houses.
Yeah, and it's a little bit hard to come to the forefront. Obviously, Jon tries and fails, and Sansa tries and fails. With the small talk that
yes,
little Lyanna Mormont doesn't want anything to deal with, and then here comes Davos. Basically, one person that you'd think would have no shot of reasoning with a Northern house about Stark loyalty. He comes in and kind of saves the day because he, obviously has a little soft spot for 10-year-old girls. But I thought that was a really awesome scene. I liked the interaction between Lyanna Mormont and her maester, and also probably I would assume would be her masters at arms. They're advising her, and she's kind of seeking their guidance. But once Davos talks, and she kind of immediately, who's House Seaworth with her maester there. But eventually, though, Davos kind of wins her over, and the maester seeks to advise her, and she just was like, nope, talk to the hand.
Yeah,
I'm going to make my own decision here.
It was good.
She calls the shot there, which I thought was pretty cool. And it reminded me of the scenes back in, like, Season 2 where Maester Luwin is advising Bran, and Bran's kind of running Winterfell.
Yeah.
So we've
very reminiscent.
Seen that before, yeah.
And just like you said, Davos has practice. Obviously, talking to Shireen, he knows how to talk to those younger girls. We've seen him relate well, and they seem to like him. So, it seems like that should be Jon's go-to, though. Hey, we've got the Boltons, but BT Dubs, we got all these dead guys coming from the north and White Walker. That should probably be his lead-in, and not Davos coming in with the save there.
Yeah.
But we got to add a little suspense to it. I'm glad he didn't pull out Longclaw. Obviously, that was the Mormont sword, originally Jeor's. And from what I understand, I think this was his. Lyanna was his niece, I think they said.
Yeah.
So maybe Mage's daughter. His mom might be Mage, Jeor's sister. I felt like she would have wanted it back, and that would have been a pretty awkward conversation. Like, we're gonna go ahead and need it upcoming here in the wars. So sorry about that. But come fight for us, though. We got the Glovers a little bit later on. He seems to obviously he doesn't go with them, but it really shows the North's disdain again for the wildlings. And I also noted in that scene, Rob's reputation has really suffered since he's been dead. You know, he makes a point to bring up the Red Wedding, losing the war, Jane or Talisa, his wife there, his foreign wife, the Ironborn. Yeah. The Ironborn coming and pillaging the lands when he was north. Even makes it a point to say the Boltons were the ones that helped give them their lands back. So, you know, John's really up against it here with the Glovers.
Yeah, I thought it was a great scene. Probably my top few favorite scenes of the episode, especially when Sansa basically reminds him that you're bound by allegiance and by an oath to answer to a Stark when you're called upon. And he turns around and basically, you know, tears into her and tears her a new one. But I just reminiscent of the theme of the episode where you have the North is broken down. It's in utter ruins. Every house has suffered from Robb Stark's war and marched south. And they're at the moment kind of caught between fulfilling and making sure that their house survives. They're caught between the Boltons and the Starks now. And what was telling is that even though the Boltons just fought with House Glover to retake their castle, he didn't imprison or take hostage Sansa and Jon. He let entertain them.
Yeah, exactly.
I found that in the description of the episode, there was a short little description there that says that the North is reminded.
Yeah.
It's a little telling there that yes, they'll entertain this thought. They're being made aware of it. Starks are alive. Okay. And I find that fairly interesting to see, you know, what is going to happen in future episodes, whether or not the Glovers or any of the other houses like the Manderleys are going to change their minds and eventually show up.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get something like that. You know, we have the northern campsite here, where Stannis had previously was previously, you know, right when he said this is where Stannis was previously, it immediately brought me back to Shireen. And I really feel like this is where now Davos is going to find out what happened to Shireen. You know, whether he finds that little toy stag that he gave her, the little wooden stag that she dropped when she was going up to the funeral pyre, or some other way. I really feel like that's going to be the way.
Definitely.
I think this is where he finds out. I think Mel is eventually going to get it, either at the end of this season, beginning of next season. I don't see her dying, though, immediately. I don't see her dying before the battle. You know, there are a few things that I think back to throughout the seasons. Obviously, you know, she said multiple times she sees herself on the Winterfell's battlements with Bolton banners burning. So I think that'll play a part. Does that necessarily mean they win the war or they win the battle? They may not. She could just be a captive on the battlements, and the Bolton banners she sees burning are, you know, the big crosses that we see in the trailer with somebody burning on them, you know? It doesn't necessarily mean they win, but I think it means she'll survive up to the battle. She says that she'll meet Arya again, which should happen, hopefully, unless there's a little bit of a continuity error there, continuity error. But I don't see Mel getting it right away anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think you're right that, you know, obviously Davos is gonna find out somehow, and I think you're right in that he's gonna find the pyre. He's gonna find that little wooden carving he made for. That's probably how it's gonna go down. But, you know, where is Mel? We haven't seen her in a few episodes.
Yeah,
she obviously rode off with them on horseback, so it'd be interesting to see if she's even in the encampment. But what I found interesting upon second viewing, they made it aware that, you know, it's more than just House Mormont and the wild things that are there. Jon and Sansa were able to successfully negotiate and recruit 3 other northern houses. The Yornwoods. Is it Yornwoods?
Yeah.
That M house. You think you asked
Masons or something? Mason.
I think one other house was there with them too, which brought about 1,000 more men, I think. But so it's and you had a little Wildling versus Northern House skirmish there.
Yeah.
So it's
I mean,
to see that whole dynamic.
yeah, it really feels like John is losing a little bit of control here. Not just with the fact that, you know, we obviously we see those two people having the skirmish and then kind of attacking or not really respecting Davos there, but also, you know, the fact that his plan just seems to be terrible. Like, we don't have the people, but who cares? We're just going to do it anyway. And then we see Sansa write the letter to what you would think would be Littlefinger. You know, I don't see too many other people she'd be writing that letter to. And I've seen people say, you know, that this is a step back for Sansa and her character, but I don't agree with that. I really feel like, you know, this is even another step forward for Sansa's character. You know, from the last scene with Littlefinger, she doesn't want to write to him, but she doesn't want to rely on his help or rely on anyone's help. But she knows that John's plan is doomed, basically. So she's going to invite Littlefinger up to the north, most likely. Will it work out exactly how she wants it to? Probably not. But at least she's taking an initiative, even though it's not something she necessarily wants to do.
Yeah, it's interesting to see who actually wrote the letter to. I think it's going to the Eyrie. Okay. But maybe she's not sending it directly to Littlefinger, but she's sending it to Lord Robin. Yeah. Would it be Lord Robin?
It could be, yeah, Lord Robin. It could be Bronzion Royce.
Yeah, but if maybe she's working behind the scenes, but he'll eventually know. It's not like he won't know. But I feel like he probably is most likely Littlefinger. She already sent Brienne to Riverrun, which I think is going to be she's kind of caught in the middle between being loyal to the Starks and loyal to the Blackfish, and also being sent on this Oathkeeper mission by Jaime. So it's going to be, I think I'm really looking forward to that whole interaction next episode. But will she successfully recruit also Riverrun? Will the Blackfish and Jaime negotiate a truce? That remains to be seen, but someone's going to come and save the day, I think. Or that's what we want to happen, but that's not going to happen at all.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be similar to the latter there. You know, I think, you know, so many people take it on faith that we're going to have this big battle at Winterfell and the Ramsay's going to be defeated and, you know, maybe some of the wildlings will die, but Littlefinger will come or somebody will come and John's army will be victorious. But that's not what happens in Game of Thrones normally. Yeah. You know, I think that there'll be several different factions. And right now there's several different factions that can play a part. You know, obviously we have the Boltons, but we also have the Karstarks, the Umbers, the Manderleys. How are the Karstarks and Umbers are with the Manderleys now, at least? With the Boltons, I'm sorry. Are they really loyal to them? Are they loyal to the North and it's all a big ruse? We have the Wildlings in John's army. We have the Vale. How are they going to come into play? We have these other northern houses like the Glovers, the Serwins. The Manderleys haven't come to the forefront yet. We have the Riverrun army. You know, we have all these different factions coming that could potentially come north. I think it's going to, you know, play out with Ramsay eventually losing Winterfell, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be Littlefinger saves the day. I hope it isn't anyway. I do tend to think that this letter included a marriage pact here as well. Whether it was to Littlefinger, which I think it was, or to Sweet Robin, I think the letter included a marriage pact with one of them for sending the Vale armies north here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that too. And I also think that potentially this letter is going to be the mechanism that not only brings Littlefinger and the army north, but also Littlefinger is going to be the one that is going to recruit the Manderleys and some of the other northern houses to the cause, if he already hasn't been plotting that.
Yeah, it seemed like the Glovers would have been willing to go had they had more men. You know, he asked them, how many men do you have? if he had said something more comparable to what the Boltons had, I could have seen him kind of switching allegiances there. But however it winds up, I really feel like we're gonna get a very solid battle here. Okay, so let's shift our focus back to the Riverlands. One of my favorite scenes, we get Bronn and Jaime riding into camp. We get the camp scene with them in the phrase, and then we get the parlay between between the Blackfish and Jaime. I really like that parlay scene. Just the imagery, the castle, the moat, the nice bridge, the angle they showed everything at. I thought that was awesome there.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's been too long without Bronn. So it's nice to have his clever wit back and his one-liners. I really liked how the Lannister army of 8,000 men just walked up on the phrase and they had no idea what was happening. I like the awesome scene there where the Frey Black Walder is basically threatening to kill Edmure, and the Blackfish just calls his bluff immediately, and then Jaime basically puts him in his place, and as does Bronn.
Yeah, Jaime essentially just bitch slaps him there, basically, with his golden hand.
Little Stockton slap from Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
But I really like that scene. And then obviously I was really looking forward to the Blackfish and Jaime parlay, and I think it lived up to expectations.
Oh yeah. Right when Jaime and Bronn walk into camp, they show so many examples of the phrase basically just sucking. Their camp is bad. They can't even dig latrines. The terrible bluff with Edmure that the Blackfish called out immediately. Jaime's obviously his slap there. I think one of the things I like the most outside of the imagery around the parlay, the conversation, right when the Blackfish meets him, he makes sure that Jaime knows that basically he's quote unquote above him there. That he has more honor than Jaime. He establishes himself right away as greater than Jaime. He calls him Kingslayer right off the bat. He brings up that Jaime has an unfulfilled oath to Catelyn. He brings up the fact that Jaime was a captive of the Blackfish and of the Northern Army there. So he establishes himself right away as his honor's unsmirched, Jaime's isn't. And from there, it kind of just, Blackfish really got the better of him there.
Definitely. Kind of scoffs at, Jaime brings up, I swear on my honor that, all your men will live. And the Blackfish is like, really? What honor?
What does that mean? Yeah.
It's a joke. And he's like, I basically wanted to judge you as a man, and I have judged you, and I found you lacking. Disappointed. And just walks away. He drops the mic and walks off, and they close the moat on Jaime's face. But I thought that was a little bit of foreshadowing, too. I think Brienne, and with her letter from Sansa, it might kind of force the Blackfish's hand to either escape Riverrun, flee himself to help lead this northern cause. Seems like a very Blackfish thing to do because the Riverrun situation is obviously set up to survive a 2-year siege. And I think Brienne's going to be that mechanism that's going to bring the Blackfish into the fold to kind of resurrect the northern cause that Robb started.
Yeah, I really feel like from the Blackfish's perspective, once he realizes what's going on up north, he has one of two options. He can stay at Riverrun and make this last stand of the North, of the original Northern Army and Riverrun alliance there, and he can die in Riverrun, the castle he was born in, like he says, and that's great and that's honorable. But the harder thing to do probably is find a way to sneak out, or give up the castle and let his army leave, or whatever remnants of an army he has leave, like Jaime says that he can, and try to head up north and see what they can do up north as well. Knowing Blackfish, I think probably that's what he'll do, whether it's just himself or it's some parts of the army he has inside Riverrun. But I'm really just I'm really looking forward to these plots merging with Brienne and Jaime, them getting a meet up again, the Blackfish and Jaime. Most excited, though, I'm a Bronn and Podrick reunion. They were together from season 1 all the way through season 4 until Tyrion was arrested and they both left. So I think we'll get a very happy and funny scene when Bronn and Podrick finally reunite here.
Potentially, it could also be a very tense scene because Bran
is
going to be forced to choose sides. So you have Podrick, the ladies' man.
Yes.
We all forget that Podrick's quite the ladies' man.
Yes.
And obviously was made Tyrion and Bronn very, very jealous because he didn't have to pay for his sexual exploits with the prostitutes of King's Landing.
Yes.
But I don't know. I kind of see something happening where Podrick is kind of put in a situation of sorts where he too might also have to choose. And we'll see what happens with it. But I am definitely looking forward to what's going to happen in River Run as well.
All right, so let's move away from River Run. We got 2 shorter scenes left here. The first one, we talked about how all the scenes are really about broken men and rebuilding after hardship. None more so than Theon and the Ironborn Atlantis here.
Thrones drinking game.
Yes, exactly. And, never is it a bad time for nudity in Game of Thrones from the producer standpoint. At any point we can work it in. We'll try to work it in. I liked Yara's tough love approach with Theon. It seems to fit with their culture there, the Ironborn culture, the Reaving and Iron Price culture. I liked how she said Theon's had, quote unquote, some bad years. That really understates it a little bit, but it makes sense. And she wants Theon back. And I finally think, at the end, Theon is the closest we've seen to Ironborn when he finally looks at her in the eyes there.
Yeah, we've seen a few scenes where kind of Theon or Reek has been kind of forced to become Theon again in the past and kind of puts on this little persona for a little bit, but he always mentally just cracks. And we kind of saw him obviously make a comeback here with the King's Moot. He kind of took it upon himself to address his constituents of the Iron Islands, and he does a fairly good job there. But he's still not, a man. And what is it going to take for him to kind of rediscover Theon? I don't think he's going to revert back to asshole Theon that thinks he's a ladies' man and is macking hard on the ladies all the time. But I think he can rediscover the values and lessons that Ned Stark taught him and raised him to be. I don't know if he's going to be truly Ironborn, but I think he's gonna play a role.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that at the beginning of the season, I thought Theon was kind of on the death watch there, where I could see him at the end of the season dying at some point. As the season's gone on, though, I just seem to think Theon has a bigger and bigger role to play, in my mind anyway. And obviously Yara kind of takes over Euron's plan of going to Daenerys. They'll obviously get there first. Euron's still got to build a 1,000-ship fleet. But Yara does say to Theon, she needs Theon Greyjoy. So what does she need Theon Greyjoy for? Is it just to lead her ships? Because I feel like she could have a lot of people do that. Is it going to be treating with Daenerys? I knew I threw a crackpot theory out last week. Theon and Dany, potential marriage pact later in the season. But I feel like now it's becoming a little less crackpot. Probably not, but in my own mind, it's going to work.
That would be crazy, man.
That would certainly be crazy. Anything more about the Ironborn here? Or should we jump into what I saw the scene of the day?
I thought it was one of the weaker scenes, the Ironborn one. I mean, It was like this crazy drinking game where she's basically just forcing Theon to drink beer to become a man again. And it was kind of weird. I don't really like the scene too much, but it is what it is. Some comedic relief there. What's next?
So the last scene, the scene of the day, in my opinion, Arya Stark and Braavos. Obviously it doesn't end well for Arya on the surface. First, let me hear your thoughts about Arya and Braavos here.
All right. Well, I was reading into this a little bit and reading what other people had to say and what other people thought about Arya and this whole situation she's kind of caught in.
Me as well.
And people have been bringing up all these theories, and it really made me think a lot. And, I'm struggling to believe whether or not I think the theory is true or not. If we have like a little Fight Club situation happening here, where the first rule about the House of Black and White is that you don't talk about the House of Black and White, and that Arya basically has a split personality of like Tyler Durden here, where the waif is actually Arya, and that the Arya is basically killing the real Arya to truly become no one. Is that actually true or not? I don't think it really matters. I mean, the end result is that Arya is going to still do what she's going to do. I don't think there's any way that Arya Stark's going to die. If they do kill Arya Stark, it's just like the biggest waste of screen time ever. But it's definitely not happening. But how it happens, I think the road is clear. Would it be cool if she has a split personality? Yeah. Would it be cool if she doesn't have a split personality? She kills the waif anyway? Yeah. It's still gonna end up the same. What do you think, man?
I think so. This was one of my favorite scenes. I think last week I talked about how I was a little down on Braavos and Arya's storyline, and how if she just goes and kills the waif, then I would be a little down on that, and then just heads back to Westeros. But I think this was a pivotal scene, and I think this will be an important thing and an important scene. It'll either go one of two ways. Either I really won't like the end of the Braavos storyline here, or I think depending on next week, I'll have really liked it, and I'll have, really come to appreciate the whole House of Black and White storyline the past 2 seasons. So I think this scene was a little bit over the top for me, but I think it was intentionally over the top. We see Arya strutting around in her fine clothes, throwing bags of money around, going right to the Westerosi people. Anybody listening now, they know exactly how, exactly where, exactly with who, exactly when she's leaving. She gives them all that information. She stops for a little sightseeing tour on the bridge. This opposed to last episode when she was hovering in that crevice can't even have the candle lit, having needles, standing at attention. There's just such a dramatic shift to where she is now that I think something's at play. I don't think this is Arya just naively walking around the city, not realizing that the House of Black and White is after her. So I think something's at play. I think it could go a lot of different ways. Like you said, the waif being a split personality could be one. Another way, this could not actually be Arya. This could have been Jaqen walking around as a test for the waif. Because we talked previously that the waif truly isn't no one either. She shows a lot of emotion towards Arya. But and also to Arya's naivete, this face that we see the waif wearing, we've seen that face once before. That was the face in season 5, episode 6, that Arya's looking at in the House of Black and White. That she reaches out to the wall and touches this exact face there. So she has seen this face before that the waif is wearing. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. the other thing I found interesting about this scene, when she first walks up to the boat captain, he says, the Iron Fleet's in Slaver's Bay. But we know from 2 or 3 scenes earlier that Iron Fleet isn't in Slaver's Bay yet. It's in Volantis. And Volantis is on the opposite side of Valyria. And even last season, we saw Jorah and Tyrion go from Volantis around Valyria to Slaver's Bay. So is this just somebody with their facts wrong, or is something more at play here? I'm not sure. But I really hope that something more is happening.
What do you mean by that last point? Like, just mean that the Ironborn are already on their way to Meereen? They're almost there based upon this little story there? Or do you think it's connected to the Arya storyline?
Well, I just thought it was weird that, 2 or 3 scenes earlier, we see the Iron Fleet in Volantis, but then when the Arya scene, now all of a sudden they're in Slaver's Bay. They're 2 different locations. We know from last season that even in the show, they're 2 different locations. Valyria's separating them. So another theory I've read, I don't know how much I buy into it, but this little quote makes me buy into it a little bit more, that, Arya was playing around with these potions in a previous episode. Could this be Arya, seeing potential outcomes of what could happen? Arya's really still in that crevice, wondering, waiting for the waif. And she's using these potions to see potential outcomes depending on what she does. Or, like Dany drinks Shade of the Evening before she goes into the House of the Undying in the books. And they say that Shade of the Evening opens up the ears and opens up the mind to see potential futures, basically. So is this just a potential future? And at that point in her future, the Ironborn have finally reached Slaver's Bay. I just feel like, they specifically included that line in there for a reason. I just don't know exactly what yet.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I like the possibility that it is just Jaqen H'ghart still testing the waif and figuring out what exactly she's going to do. I thought it was really weird that, the waif would just stab her multiple times in the stomach, let her float off a bridge, and just, hey, I'm just going to leave her go. She's dead.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't be something the waif would do.
No, clearly with the gut shot, she's trying to make Arya suffer a little bit there, but I feel like she would go after Arya a little bit too, confirm that she's actually dead. Unless, the other outcome is that this is Arya, putting on a front for the waif. Maybe she had a blood bag in there, maybe something else, and she had some armor on, and this is Arya making the House of Black and White believe she's dead, and now she's just going to head off to Westeros. I hope that's not what's going to happen, because I really feel like we're going to have a waif-Arya showdown here. But it was very interesting indeed.
Another thing about here, we kind of have a similar situation repeating itself. You have the Hound who was beaten to a pulp, and then Arya leaves him to suffer.
Yeah.
And we have, obviously, the waif knows everything about Arya and knows her story about the Hound and how she had this thing for the Hound and how she kind of left him to die. So do we have the waif here purposely maiming Arya, wounding her to make her suffer and slowly, die? And we have that scene there where she's kind of wandering through the market and she's bleeding from the stomach and people are just looking at her oddly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this thing could go so many different ways. I think no matter what happens, we're in for like a holy shit moment next episode related to Arya Stark. Something serious is going to go down, I think, in probably more than one storyline. There's only 3 episodes left. So the ball has to start rolling a little bit more quickly here. Because, after this season, we only have 12 episodes left. Maybe it's 13 episodes left in the entire series.
Yeah. No, I think this, and especially with next week, and we could kind of tie this into next week as a whole, next episode, but, next episode is called No One. I think we're going to definitely get a Bravo showdown. I think, this scene with Arya this week and the scene last week with her and Needle in the little crevice or cave there, it just seemed like there was a scene missing in between there, and we missed something. And once we understand what we missed in there, then a lot of things will probably come together. I have a feeling maybe we might see Lady Crane again. If Arya is indeed injured, she might go to Lady Crane for sewing up.
Yeah.
We see, Lady Crane tried to deal with some genital warts earlier this season. A stab wound might be a little above her pay grade, but we'll see. So I have a feeling we might see the Lady Crane again. I definitely have a feeling we'll see Jaqen again. And I really think we're going to get a little showdown between the Waif and Arya.
Yeah, showdown between Waif and Arya next episode, no matter what. I mean, the episode is called No One. So the Arya storyline should have a clear direction, I think, at the end of the next episode. We also are going to have, obviously, the Hound exact some major revenge upon the Brotherhood Without Banners. I think also simultaneously we have the Mountain punishing the Faith Militant for Cersei. So we kind of have this parallel now of two rogue dogs, the Hound and the Mountain, kind of flexing their muscles a little bit as a little preview for the Clegane Bowl later on in the season. I'm interested to see what happens in River Run, obviously with Brienne and how she, where do her loyalties lie. I think they're going to lie with the Blackfish. And I think we're going to see a return to Meereen for Daenerys Targaryen and one Drogon.
And I think we haven't seen Tyrion in a few episodes either. So we haven't seen Tyrion in a few episodes. It seems like, I don't know exactly, but I don't think we saw him last week either. So it's been at least 3 weeks. He's only been in, 3 or 4 scenes all season. This may just be a smaller season for Peter Dinklage and Tyrion as a character. But I think he'll, once him and Dany meet up again, we'll see a little bit more screen time for them. I'm interested to see what happens in the Meereen plot line. Last we left them, we saw the other slave houses or the other slave cities, Yunkai and Meereen and Yunkai, Astapor, and Volantis, where Yara and Theon are. We see them rising up against Dany, or at least instituting slavery again. So it'll be interesting to see if they come to a head in Meereen as well.
Yeah, man, stuff's gonna go down.
Cool. Anything else about the episode next week you wanna go over?
Yeah. How about you?
I'm good. I'm just excited for these last 3 episodes. Like you said, I think the last 2 episodes were kind of setup episodes. They were good setup episodes. I think Game of Thrones has gotten a lot better at that. But I feel like we're going to see a lot come to a head the last few weeks. I think we'll have a few unexpected deaths that we're maybe not thinking about. I think, Littlefinger could die. I think Lady Olenna could die. I think there's going to be a few characters that we really like that may end up dying. So I'm excited. And obviously 2 weeks from now, I really feel like we're going to get the Battle of Winterfell, so I'm excited for that.
And then the Winds of Winter.
Yes. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Like I said, you can check out old podcasts at Stitcher, SoundCloud, or www.wildlingsports.com. Thanks.
See ya.